Welcome to Fast Cash with Bill Jennings. With more than 2 decades of experience helping individuals and small businesses gain access to the capital necessary for growth, Bill is now offering up tips, tricks, tools, and expertise from financial service pros to help you get where you're going faster. Buckle up, it's time for Fast Cash.
Welcome back to the show. This is Bill Jennings with Pathway Financial, and today we have Dan Clarton with Riverside Hope here with us. Dan, how you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here. So I know you obviously work in real estate. We've known each other for quite some time.
We do.
For those who don't know who you are, explain a little bit, just briefly, about what you do.
Well, I'm a real estate investor, so I'm involved in the pursuit of properties to either, fix and flip or hold as rental properties. Sometimes, I wholesale things off, but it's always in the pursuit primarily for my business with off-market properties.
Okay, so off-market properties, meaning you're finding people who are in situations where they need to get rid of a property, but they don't want to list it with an agent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and then you kind of come in, purchase the property, and find some sort of use for it.
I do.
Okay, so when you're doing that, how important is it to you to have access to capital right on the spot?
Well, without capital, there's no reason to leave the house.
This is true.
It takes money to make money, always, and you always want to have as many lines and buckets to draw from, because you never know when the next situation is going to come up where you got to be ready.
Exactly, and that's kind of one of the things that a lot of people run into is they don't plan ahead. They think if I don't have a property ready for me today, there's no point in looking for capital. So I always feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more important to, banks want to give you money when you don't need it. They want to give you money when you do need it, right?
Yeah, that would be short-sighted thinking. So many times in these real estate circles, people say, well, if you find the deal, the money will come. That's probably true, but it's always better to anticipate versus react to.
Definitely.
So if you're in a particularly if you're doing a cash deal with somebody, they're looking, one of the things that makes my offer attractive to them is that I can close this deal quickly and I can get them the money they so desperately need and want. And if I wait till I find that particular property and then start running around for the money, the movie's going to end badly.
The property's usually gone at that point.
It
also.
could be,
yeah.
Sure.
So I think actually, we've known each other a while. I think when we originally met was years ago. I think I was actually working with your wife at a property that I was looking to wholesale to you guys.
That's right.
And then we kind of circled back around through a networking group probably about maybe 2 years ago.
Yep.
And at that point, we kind of come in and we try helping a lot of the people that are at those groups get access to capital. But prior to that, and prior to kind of learning about our programs, what type of financing options were you seeing? If you didn't have cash, right, what other options are there out there available to real estate investors?
Well, probably the first line for particularly new investors is, what we call the hard money lenders.
Okay.
And typically they charge a lot of points and high interest. And that's really a challenge for new investors because the odds are stacked against them already, because they may not have the property value down just right. They may be a little off on what it's going to cost to repair it. And all these things are pinching down their potential profit.
Right.
And then when you add a high cost loan in the middle of that, frankly, that can be the difference between success and failure on any particular property.
Understandable. So another thing that I've always looked at is a lot of people that when they're getting into real estate, they become real estate investors because they don't want a boss, right? They want to work for themselves. And sometimes when you start working with these hard money lenders, they start dictating what you're allowed to do and what you can't do. So you kind of are responding to somebody now opposed to actually doing what you want to do. Am I correct?
Yeah, not only that, and even with other types of financing sometimes, the hoops that you have to jump through and the way that you have to run your business is maybe inconvenient,
okay,
to say it politely. And if you just had a stack of cash that you would make your own choices and do things how you want, when you want, that would make life a lot easier.
Okay. So are banks, like traditional banks, are they lending for real estate investors at this point?
Well, it's like anything. It's like you say, if you have money and if you have credit and if you have a W-2 or if you have verifiable income,
sample,
then maybe.
Yeah.
But so many people getting started, they don't have those things.
Right.
And so, oftentimes people are like, well, now what? And I think the difference between success and failure of anything is, to say I'm in real estate is really kind of a loose statement. I'm in the problem-solving business, and sometimes that means problem-solving for myself as much or more so as the people that I'm trying to help.
Definitely. So, okay, so after we kind of hooked back up and we started going to some of the network groups together, I know you've sent us quite a bit of business. So kind of explain the difference between the other options and the kind of programs that we offer, right? The 0% interest, is that something that helps the clients, your clients a lot, or your real estate investors a lot?
Oh, gee, let me think about that. Of course it does. And I think one of the reasons that I'm so anxious to refer people over to you is certainly because it's you. I mean, when people talk about an experience they have, whether it be, they go out for a nice dinner, the food and the building are only part of the experience. And what the swing vote that really makes that a nice evening out is the server and how attentive they are to you and how they interact with the group. And that's kind of the difference. And, like a lot of businesses, you're not the only one that offers this kind of thing.
Right.
But the other people don't have the bill factor. And I think that's the critical piece.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Dan.
Sure.
So one of the things that we worked with a client, it was either you or your partner that referred them over to us, but there was a guy named, we'll call him Joe. Recently, he came over to us and he was looking to purchase a property that was right here locally in Mount Prospect, Illinois. And he came to us kind of a little late. As we just talked about earlier, he kind of didn't plan ahead. He thought that he had other financing lined up. It fell through. So he came to us kind of at the last minute. We were able to secure $117,000 worth of business credit lines for him.
Terrific.
All unsecured, which is obviously great when you're looking at purchasing real estate because he became a cash buyer at that point. He's not having to deal with the nonsense of getting an actual mortgage and all that kind of stuff.
It changes the whole ability to make your offer more attractive than somebody else's just for that reason.
Because it's cash, right? No contingencies, quick close, right?
Yep.
So we got him $117,000 in cash. Unfortunately, it was still too late for him to purchase it, close on the property in Mount Prospect, but he found a great property actually in a different part of the country, in Baltimore.
Oh, wow.
And the numbers worked a lot better there, and he's actually, they're about to put it on the market right now, so everything went well with that deal. Pretty much anybody that we're working with on when they're looking to purchase a property, it works great for someone who's rehabbing, right? Because if you're doing a fix and flip, how long does it typically take to get in and out of a property?
What do people say it is, and then what is it really?
Let's talk realistic.
People always talk about getting in and out in 6 months, and I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
And, I think smart business is to hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Right.
And so, in my experience, it seems to take me just a little longer than that.
Okay, you're thinking 8 months, 9 months?
Maybe.
Somewhere in
Sometimes.
there.
Yep.
Which still falls in the window with our product where we've got 0% interest for 6 months up to 13 months.
Right.
So for most fix and flip guys, they're in and out in that period of time.
Absolutely.
Right?
They should be.
They should be, right. So so everything works fantastic with that. The other great thing is when you're doing a wholesale deal. Let's kind of talk about that for a second. If you're the person who's wholesaling the deal, your end buyer who's actually purchasing this, how do they have to finance that deal?
They need to be cash.
They need to be cash, right? 100% of the time they have to be cash. So a great way also for wholesalers is not just if they're looking for capital to do fix and flips for themselves, that's great, but a wholesaler that doesn't need to put up any money, they can still make their transactions a lot simpler if their end buyer had access to cash.
They could. And I think the offering that you have that's so powerful to investors is because even among some of these other lines of credit and financing that we're talking about, rarely is 100% of your purchase and 100% of your rehab cost financeable.
True.
So a lot of these lenders are going to want, they'll want 20% down maybe of the purchase price, and then they'll cover all the, repairs. But oftentimes they'll park that money aside, but the first $20,000, you're probably going to come out of pocket. And then when you take pictures and verify the work and have receipts and have lien waivers and all the red tape that goes with it, then you get reimbursed.
Yeah.
So people without some financial resources to get started, Bill, they're really not even in a position to take advantage of those type of loans because they still need some working capital to make it happen. And that's where your offering really kind of fills that void.
Definitely. I appreciate the kind words, and thank you for joining us today, Dan.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And if anybody found the information here useful and it looks like something that could help you with your real estate business, feel free to visit us at our website, which is www.pathwayfinancial.org. Until next time, I'm Bill Jennings with Pathway Financial. If you're interested in getting your real estate business on the path to success, feel free to reach out.
Thank you for listening to Fast Cash with Bill Jennings. If you love our fast-paced format, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Remember, you don't have to be a publicly traded corporation to gain access to the capital you need to take your business to the next level. To learn more about how I can help fund your dreams, hit us up at pathwayfinancial.org. And as always, we ask you to share this podcast with your friends, neighbors, colleagues, and anyone else who can benefit from Fast Cash.